Marin and Gojo confess their feelings to each other, the misunderstanding is over, and boy oh boy, what a chapter, what a confession that we were given. The last 24 or so hours has been ridiculous, especially if you're a My Dress Up Darling fan, and if you are a Rent-A-Girlfriend fan, you're on live support, because you see every single other rom-com, romance manga getting these conclusions, getting these romantic, moments and all that, while Rent-A-Girlfriend is still floundering around, and Chizuru can't make up her mind and feelings. Kazuya is Kazuya, you get the point. Rent-A-Girlfriend wishes. But getting back on topic, though, the last 24 hours of My Dress Up Darling's community has been exploding everywhere in the manga community for very good reason, because for a while now, My Dress Up Darling has been having a lot of drama with its misunderstandings, to Gojo feeling like he's potentially getting into Yard, all these different type of things. There's a lot of conversation around that, and one of the big things that a lot of people have been discussing for a while is that just talk, just communicate. So that's what people, wanted. And finally, with the latest chapter, chapter 107 of My Dress Up Darling, Gojo admitted his feelings to Marin, and Marin obviously reciprocated and told her feelings towards him. And for clarification, before we go any further, Marin has obviously loved Gojo for a very long time. I believe as early as chapter 14 or 15 of the manga, it's been a very long time. Like, she is known, she's into him for a while. While she has never spoken those feelings, she's never straight up told him or anything like that, she has been in love with him. And so she's been bottling these feelings up inside of her for a very long time, and she's just never admitted it. And obviously, Gojo has eventually come to terms with, falling in love with Marin. He's had these romance and romantic feelings building, but basically, thanks to the latest stuff that's happened in the manga, with, him realizing just how jealous he was with the cosplays and people looking at her and all that, it showcased a different side of Gojo, and he felt upset with himself because his emotions of jealousy and all that theoretically could rip his relationship apart with Marin, and he would no longer be able to be with the person that he's obviously fallen in love with. So there's been a lot of roller coaster rides, so to speak, in the last few chapters because of the events that happened. So we fast forward to the latest chapter and the emotions that, have been going on in the last 24 hours. We need to talk about this confession that Gojo made. And I think that this is critical and very important, and one of the most realistic confessions I think I have seen in a while for a romance manga. I'm not trying to downplay the other stuff from this year, like Uzaki and Nagatoro, etc. Anjo and all that has been incredibly good. There's been even more romance manga and rom-coms. It's been very good. But there is a side to them. They're all very different flavored and themed. But I really do like this confession, because this is a confession that isn't meant to necessarily be extremely romantic. It was a confession of Gojo realizing he wants to say the words he's saying here, that he loves Marin, before potentially the relationship shatters into pieces. And it comes off very sad and depressing, because there's probably a lot of relationships that end up like this, but not in a happy way, to where, the woman that you confess to jumps you and says, "I love you," but in reality, she just walks out the door and leaves you behind, something like that. So Gojo's reaction here is very realistic, and it's understandable why his emotional state was like it was in this chapter of My Dress Up Darling. So let's talk about that and discuss what's going on here before I get into the obvious lovey-dovey stuff that happened at the end of the chapter. So Gojo's emotional state has been in question for a while. We've known he's been jealous, extremely jealous, thanks to when Marin was in front of a bunch of people were taking pictures of her, etc., and he got extremely jealous of this, and it was the first time he truly realized this, and Marin obviously took this in a very different way, which has led into a lot of drama between the two, which eventually led it to where maybe the relationship might shatter. And so in the chapter, the latest chapter, chapter 107, Gojo straight up confesses to her, and let me back up just to kind of showcase this. She is extremely upset, angry, you can see the emotions on Marin's face, and he realizes that she's going to leave. And he wants to say his true feelings before everything is said and done, because he wouldn't feel right with himself if he just bottled it up inside and never said anything. He felt like she deserved to know the truth of why he's been acting the way he has, and why his emotional self and his face has been like it is. So he says, yeah, I love you. I love you a lot. And you see in his mind these many emotional states he's going through and all that, thinking about everything that's happened. He realizes that, he hates the fact that, people are being mesmerized by Marin, and he was a little bit upset that it wasn't just for him to a degree. There was just a lot of jealousy there. He even point blank admits this, and he realizes that goes completely against what Marin wants, because, obviously Marin, there's a lot more complications to that as well, but Marin is a cosplayer. She likes to cosplay, she likes to go to different conventions and stuff, showcase her cosplay, and so having the fact that, Gojo's upset and jealous about the fact of, everybody mesmerized by her and stuff, it definitely can lead into some complications to where the relationship completely shatter. And so that's why he hasn't really talked about it. And he knew that if he mentioned these moments and these feelings to her, it might make the relationship just cease to exist, even as friends alone. So he didn't know what to really say. But since the relationship was already pretty much at rock bottom at this point, and the only way to really go any further in any direction was to basically say what he wanted to say, he straight up admits to her that, yeah, I'm in love with you, Marin. And so this leads into the whole event here of the latest chapter. His emotional state, his face here, it speaks so much to me, because it's like, this is not a guy that was expecting a 180 emotional turnaround from Marin to say, I love you. This was a man that felt like he was about to be spit on, someone that was about to be ridiculed, someone that was about to be just yelled at, someone that was about to just lose a very close friend and potential love interest because of the words he just uttered out of his mouth. And so this confession doesn't come from a place of deep happiness, this comes from a confession of deep sadness, that he's extremely sad that he has to admit these feelings in such a bad way. And this is a very realistic moment that does happen to a lot of people in real life. So I really like this scene. It's a very different take to the normal confessions you would see in a romance, and especially a rom-com like manga. So when you go past this little moment and you see Marin literally push him to the ground and says, I love you, I love you, I love you, Gojo. And as I already talked about, she's been in love with him for a while. It's very nice to just see this bubbly self. The 180 of her personality was clearly pissed and angry, just turned into a happy face. And she's extremely excited that Gojo admitted these feelings. And the reason why he's been acting like he is because he is jealous. And she is happy about that he has these feelings that he is jealous for, etc. And so any doubts or reservations that Gojo had was shattered in a brief moment. And it's a very beautiful connection where these two characters bond. I love it. And it makes a lot of sense why the community is obviously rallying behind these two characters and loving what has happened in this latest chapter, because it doesn't just do this happy-go-lucky vibe, it has a realistic build-up to it. And also, talking with someone obviously is the answer. Even if it is, might not end to the results you want, talking is always the answer. You should talk to someone and let them know how you're feeling. So it's beautiful. I love this chapter. It's extremely great. And I gotta say that the author cooked, straight up cooked for my dress-up darling in the latest chapter. I am happy to see that these two are officially, we can assume at this point, a couple. Now, one thing I do want to point out, usually when these confessions happen, typically that means the series is going to be wrapping up. And I am afraid that's probably going to be the case, because, we have seen it, as of late with, Nagatoro as an example. Anytime you have a major confession like this, a series means that it's reaching into the end game, that it's about to wrap itself up. And obviously, we did not get that announcement with this chapter, from my understanding, or any word of it, but it is possible in the next chapter or two that there could be an announcement that My Dress-Up Darling will be ending in maybe 5 or so chapters. So that is sad news if that indeed happens, because as I always say when I make these type of videos talking about romance manga and romance series, I want to see the after confession. I want to see the epilogue. I want to see the characters in their romantic love life. I want to see them kind of go to college, or just have a child together, see stuff like that. I want to see the epilogue of actually the relationship after the confession. I don't want to just see them make a kiss, hold hands, get together, and that's it. I want to see more. I want to see how their life is after that point, and how they coexist with each other when they have a job, etc. So that is the thing. I hope that My Dress-Up Darling goes that direction. Obviously, I was wanting that with Nagatoro. That clearly has not happened. But I do hope that we might get this with My Dress-Up Darling, judging by how the characters are a little bit more of a mature setting than, let's say, Nagatoro was. Hopefully that is the direction the author wants to take it. But for now, I'll leave it at that. I love this chapter. Great chapter in My Dress-Up Darling. Romance manga truly has been peak this year on all fronts. The only series that's honestly falling behind at this point is Rent-a-Girlfriend. And FYI, if you're wondering about this panel, this is like a 130, 140 chapter old. Like, this is 130 chapters ago, okay? It's a very old panel, and this didn't lead anywhere, so just FYI on that. But, anyways, yeah, I hope that, we continue to have these great chapters, man. It has been so good, dude, to be a fan. And, yeah, thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.